I feel like some people talk about that, like moving the goalpost things and the negative of like, oh, people reach one thing and then, but I guess if you take it from the frame of these are just more challenges that I'll enjoy from, then it's not a problem if the goalposts move.
I don't think it's a problem. I mean, if you beat level 1 boss, then what? The game moves you up, you play harder monsters, and then you try and beat level 2 boss. It's this whole fallacy around being done. It's this whole idea that we can finish. We can work so hard, we never have to work again. We can fuck so good, we never have to fuck again. We can eat so big, we never have to eat again. We can sleep so well, we never have to sleep again. It's just a fallacy, it's not true. And people lose their lives trying to find that one meal, or that one fuck, or that one, sleep, or that one goal that'll satisfy them for good. And it never does.
I think a story that would really contextualize this for the audience is like that period when you were getting ready to sell Gym Launch that you just, sounded like you felt a little lower.
Oh yeah. So when I was selling Gym Launch, there was basically a year where I couldn't really work. Mostly because if I worked in the business, then it would look like I was a key man to the business. And I didn't know if we were going to sell, so I didn't want to start another company. So I basically just had to like subsist. I could even start new endeavors or initiatives within the company. So I just had to do nothing basically. And so for me, it was the most depressed I've been. If you look at some of the videos during that time period, a lot of them are me being pretty sad and being like, what the fuck is life about? But it's just that for me, again, I'm not religious, but I do find it interesting that the first thing God gave Adam in the Bible, before giving him a wife, was giving him a job. Work. Tend to the garden, before he gave him a wife. And I find that really interesting. I don't like, religion aside, we're built to work. And so for me especially, I'm built to work. And so if I'm working, I'm good. And like the days that I enjoy the most are the days that I work the longest. And so I just try and remove everything that stops me from doing that.
You said something interesting about hell the other day, or heaven, the idea of heaven potentially being kind of like a hell. It's like not doing anything.
Oh, it sounds horrible. Well, I mean, if the idea, like I think most people envision heaven like the one meal that's going to be so good they're never going to eat again. They're going to be so elated to just be singing with the angels. It's like, yeah, but play it out. Like, then what? Like, okay, got it. We sang with the angels from 9 to 10, and then then I had a feast, you know what I mean, from 10 to 11, but I got to keep my idealized body, my I don't know, Christianese for idealized body, glorified physical form. I got to keep that the whole time. It's like, okay, well now it's noon. Now what do I do? Well, dogs are all there, because all dogs go to heaven. Great, good to know. But if your wife dies, then it's like you have 3 wives up there. You're like, yeah, but I mean, technically we were at different times. So it's like, how do we do with that? Whatever, God's figured it out. But again, I think it's just this fallacy of work-life balance. Like, I think heaven is literally just an extrapolation of work-life balance as a concept, which is, I will just be able to do life and no work. But the first thing God fucking does in the Bible is give someone work. And so, I think so many people would be helped out if they just stopped labeling it as a bad thing and started seeing it as the way to get what they want. And then eventually to make it the thing they want. Because and this is like a little bit of an abstract idea, so it takes a little bit more processing power to conceptualize this, but there's goals, and then there's working to hit the goals. And then there's the idea of love the process, but there's the subscript of so that you can hit the goal. But in my opinion, it's just work. Not so that you can. It's just work. And it's like, well, what do you mean? It means like working is the goal. Like working as hard as you can and learning how hard you can work and how well you can work and how right you can make things and how well you can do them. Like pushing that, expanding my capacity to work, not so that I can, like expanding my capacity to work so that I can work more. Like if you can do that, then you have the self-fulfilling loop. And then you also become completely divorced from the outcomes, which ironically, when you do work that way, you do have outsized outcomes compared to everybody else. But you do it because you work so fucking hard, because you're addicted to working and you like that game, and the goals just happen as a consequence. But I don't even like saying the goals just happen as a consequence, because it still gives the idea to the listener or the watcher right now that that's the point. And it's not. Because even if your goal is to be the richest man in the world, okay, let's say that's your goal. For how long? Every richest man in the world is the richest man in the world for, they touch the top, and then boom, something changes the economy, whatever it is, and then another richest man in the world comes up. Like, who was the richest man 20 years ago? Actually, 30 years ago. A bunch of Japanese guys. And then Japan's economy crashed. No one even knows those guys' names. And so it's like, making the goal, even as audacious as those guys' goals were, right? And let's say you're number 2, but even let's say you're number 1. For how long? And so that's why I think that the work is the goal. Not so that you can, just the work is the goal. And learning how hard you can work. And being proud of yourself for how much harder you worked today than you did yesterday.
You have a tweet that like perfectly ties this together. You hit the goals that you said you wanted to be happy a long time ago.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you mean here? What do you actually mean?
Well, it's you've already hit goals that you said would make you happy. And I might have put years ago or something like that in there, but it's just fun to be like, years ago you set goals that today you've hit and you said you would be happy and yet you're not. And so it's because the concept of setting these goals presumes, like the ultimate unhappiness equation is, if I get X, I'll be happy, right? Like we all know that one. Because that's the guarantee of it not happening. Because it automatically, the entirety of your existence is outside of yourself, and then the moment you hit it, then what? You set another one and then it's outside of yourself, right? And so if the goal doesn't change your entire life, then you can basically be achieving it every day. If the goal is to work as hard as you can, every day you can work as hard as you can.
You can be in the state that you're desiring if the goal is the state.
Yeah, the goal is the state of being that you have when you work exceptionally hard, when you do hard work worth doing. And you know if you left some in the tank. And I think this is Jesse Itzler says this, but I really love it. There's a handful of like sayings that I've gotten from other entrepreneurs that I really love. I'll give you 3 right now. I'm side questing, but just deal with it. One is Michael Dell says, play nice but win. I just love that. The second one is Andy Frisell has 100 to 0, which I really, really like, which is basically like society when you're up, you know, in football, let's say you're up 30 to nothing and it's halftime. Society says, put in your backups, put in your third strings, like take it easy and play. And he's like, no, fuck that. 100 to 0, step on their throat and fucking kill everyone. And I like that from a perspective of like, don't let off the gas. Like, just because they lost doesn't mean that you now have to dilute yourself to lower yourself to their standard. And so it's like, yeah, so what if like it takes this much to win? I don't care if it takes this much to win. I want to be here. Because if you then change how you play because everybody else isn't as good, you lower yourself. You don't raise them up. That's society trying to make it appear as though people are better than they are. And I'm a big fan of like, they should know they lost 100 to 0. They should know how much room they have to improve. And also to the same degree, I should know how much further ahead I am.
And the goal shouldn't even be to win.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I'm going to keep playing the way I play. If we happen to finish at 100 to 0, we happen to finish at 100 to 0. But I'm not going to let off because that's who I am. And the third one was Jesse Itzler has this thing where he has with his kids, which I really like, was after they do a marathon, because he's really big in endurance sports, and so his kids are too. And so whenever they finish, a lot of them hold up a 0, which I really like, and it means nothing left in the tank. And he said, I just want you, I don't care if you win. He's like, I just want you to have nothing left. And I think about that as like the goal. So the goal is to have nothing left. And I think that on the micro level and on the macro level. Like if every day, like my favorite days are the days that I get into bed and I'm fucking exhausted, but proud of the work that I've done. I have nothing left. I've left it all on the field. And so like that's the goal. The other stuff, society chooses to measure me by. But when I measured myself that way, it distracted me and I didn't enjoy my life. But just living that day as many times in a row as I can until I die is my plan. And at the end, on the macro, they want to hold this up and be like, I got nothing left. I'm used up. But until then, I will continue to try and be useful. And so I like all three of those statements, and they, to me, kind of embody a lot of the values of 1 of 0, which is not just doing only what you can do, but doing things that you didn't know you could yet.